Hello, friend. Welcome to Speech Goods, a podcast where we showcase awesome SLPs doing awesome traditional and non-traditional SLP things. Myself and the guests on the show are here to talk about the goods, the bads, and the untangible parts of ourselves and our SLP careers, and how, despite everyday life, have just done the dang thing, loving what we do. I'm your host, Danny Augustine. A few years ago, I went from burnt out, dissatisfied with my SLP job to dusting off my big girl pants and sprinkling some determination in my 20-cent coffee and starting my own debt-free private practice. Now, I love my working career and wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. It was the support and wisdom from others around me that helped me refine my why. In this show, I hope that you're going to find support and wisdom of your own. Hello, friend. So today on the Speech Goods podcast, we have Emily Byrd, MS, CCC-SLP. I can literally never get tired of saying that. But anyways, so Emily is a full-time speech pathologist in South Florida. She works as an independent contractor and currently services pre-K through 5th grade. She's the owner of MLB Speech, and she creates apparel and accessories for speech language pathologists, grad students, and SLPAs. Emily also creates resources for Teachers Pay Teachers as well as Boom Learning. She has a passion for AAC and language. Okay, so what did we even talk about in this episode, right? So first of all, Emily has the cutest stinking SLP gear. I actually do not have any of my own SLP shirts. Every SLP shirt that I have has been given to me, mostly because I haven't found a ton of things that I really, really like. But whenever I was kind of Instagram stalking her, love you, Emily, for this episode, I was like, wow, this is really, really cute. I want all of the things. So let's just put that as a side note there. By the way, you can find all of our Instagram information in the show notes, just so you know. But what do we even talk about here? So Emily's in a really interesting position right now as she's still kind of growing her business, which is really, really great to get to talk to people who are really in the trenches and that growing and expanding side of their business. So she actually takes us back to the beginning. She talks about how she didn't get into grad school the first time. She talks about how she actually originally was going to make MLB Speech into a private practice and realized that that actually wasn't for her, and ended up kind of taking a step back and figuring out what it was that really just lit her little heart on fire, right? We also talk about her journey as an entrepreneur. We get into that oh so common thing that we talk about a lot on this podcast and that we see a lot in this field, especially with a field dominated with women, is imposter syndrome, and how she's able to continue to work through her business while sort of battling some of those feelings. So I think it's going to be a really interesting perspective for you. Emily was so much fun, and you are going to enjoy this episode. All right, let's go do the dang thing. Hello, Emily. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
So good. Well, we just heard your awesome bio. You're kind of doing a little bit of all the things. So I'm super excited to get to interview today. And your business, you started your business back in November. So it's been almost a year, right?
Yeah. So I actually started my TPT and Boom card store in April of 2020, right when COVID hit. So I've been doing that since then. And then this apparel and accessories business was since November of last year. So yes, we're coming up on a year soon.
Oh, so exciting. I love SLPs like you who can make cute stuff. I am not cute at all. I can't make anything cute. I will pay someone else to make it cute for me. So I'm glad people like you exist. So Emily, can you tell us a little bit about what makes you and your SLP journey unique?
Yeah, so as far as why my journey is unique, I'll go way back to 2013 when I graduated from undergrad. I went to University of Delaware, and there was no speech pathology program there at the time. There is now, but there wasn't then.
Good timing.
Yeah, and for some reason in undergrad, I was so focused on working that I didn't know how competitive grad school was, and I didn't have the best GPA. I graduated with a 3.2, which, as you know, grad school is so competitive. So I actually applied to I think 3 grad schools after right before graduation. Didn't get into any of them, so I took a year off, and then I decided I was just going to apply to the one school I wanted to go to. and got waitlisted there for the second time. And then eventually they sent me the letter saying like, you didn't get in. And I was like, okay, well, like I can't be a waitress forever. That's what I did during my year off. So I really like was kind of lost at that point. I didn't know what to do. So for some reason, I thought it was a good idea to enroll in school counseling. And I got in like that. I don't know how I got in super fast, but that's what I was registered for at this university. It was California University of Pennsylvania for grad school. And on the night before class was supposed to start, I was registered and everything. I got a call, and I don't answer phone calls from numbers that I don't recognize. I don't know if we like that too. So I let it go to voicemail, and it was the director of admissions for the speech pathology program. And he was like, Emily, I'm at a funeral right now, but somebody just dropped out of our grad program and you're next on the list if you want the spot. So I called him back and I was like bawling my eyes out, and I was like, of course I want this spot. So it went from like me not having no idea what to do, like my whole undergrad career, I spent my time wanting to be an SLP, like that was my dream, to going to like, I don't know what to do at this point. So that's where my journey started. So yeah, I feel so lucky and blessed to even be an SLP at all. But I feel like everything that's meant to be will be. So yeah.
That is like some great encouragement for people out there, because actually someone, I don't remember who it was, some SLP Instagram account, y'all can DM me and tell me what the account was. But some SLP Instagram account, Tilly. I'm so sorry. That's my dog. But there was an Instagram account who said that it was almost as difficult to get into SLP grad school as it was to get into medical school, which is insane. Did you see that?
I did not, but I feel like that makes sense. But at the same time, like I never understand why it's so competitive, because I know SLP jobs are like in high demand all the time. So I always wish it wasn't like that. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's like there's only so many spots. Cause I mean, if you've got like my SLP undergrad program, they were popping out a couple hundred graduates a year, and the grad program had 14 spots. And then like,
yeah, I think ours was like, go ahead.
Oh, no, keep going. How much was yours?
I think ours was like 24, I want to say. I don't have the best memory, but I think there were 24 spots, which is nothing. Like it's so, I think there's like 10% acceptance rate. I'm like, how? I don't understand how.
Really? I thought it was, we'll have to look this up. Okay. Everybody listening out there, we're going to Google this whenever this conversation's over. So how long have you been in the field?
So I graduated in 2016 and it's now 2021. So a little over 5 years. I'm like in my 6th school year at the moment.
Girl, me too. I graduated in 2016.
Oh yeah?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yes. I love it. So you are currently an independent contractor. So I know, so you're doing this online business where you're selling apparel, selling TPT, selling boom cards, which we are definitely going to get into that because I get so many questions about that. But are you working full-time currently?
So it's kind of complicated, but not. So I work for an agency with the county that I'm contracted in, and the company pays my business. So everything flows into my business. But in the summertime, the agency gets a list of all of the vacancies, and the owner of the agency calls like mid-July and was like, every summer, this is what happens. It's kind of like nerve-wracking. But this is just how it works in my county. I don't know how it is everywhere else. I always want to know, like, if I could find out other people's experiences with this. But for my county that I work in South Florida, they call with the list and they say, okay, these are the schools that we have. And they just start like rattling off lists of schools. And then she says like, which one do you want? And she can tell you how many hours it is. So my job this year is actually 33 hours. Usually full-time is 35. So if you pick the 33-hour one, like you're only allowed to bill for 33 hours a week, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But some are like 50%. So there's 17 and a half hours. I think there's some that are 83%, which I don't know, to be honest, off the top of my head, how many hours a week that would be. But every school has like different hours. But luckily I was like, oh, 2 hours a week less, but like that gives me plenty of time to work on other things since I'm so busy all the time. with this other side job. So I was like perfectly fine with that. I was like, I'll take it. But yeah, every year in the summertime, the schools can change. Like I was at a different school last year and the same thing the year before. In the summertime, like the openings are different. So that's not always a guarantee that you'll be at the same school as the previous year. So
I've never ever heard of contracting that way. Like they'll like let you. So when I contracted with the school, they didn't let me pick a school. They assigned me a school. But that's really interesting that they'll just be like, okay, here's, there's 10 schools. This school has this amount of hours. The school has this amount of hours. And then you just get to pick. That's pretty cool though. That's pretty interesting.
I think it's nice because you get the name of the school. You can be on your computer and like Google the address, see how many kids go there. Like they can't tell you the caseload information or anything like that. I don't know if it's unique to my county that I work in, or if it's like that anywhere else, but I always feel lucky that I can pick a school because I've heard that that's like not a thing.
No, like they assigned me to a school, like my CF, which of course I didn't know at the time because I was a CF. They assigned me to, it was apparently the most dangerous neighborhood in the country or something like that. It was Sunnyside, Houston. Apparently it's famous for being it. So, yeah,
here you go.
Yeah, like here you go, little CF. But that is so cool. So you're doing that contracting, and so it's like almost full time. Like you're working. Like, are you doing 5 days a week, or how are you doing that over there?
Yeah, it's 5 days a week. And originally I was gonna leave 2 hours early on Fridays, but the school preferred me to just be there every day, so I wouldn't miss like that chunk of time. I see kids only during specials. Every school is different, but my school this year said only see kids during specials. So that's like that ending hour of the day is like a specials, block. So the vice principal was like, oh, if you could be here for that'd be good. So instead of staying until 2:30 every day and leaving 2 hours early, I stay until 2. So I'm done at 2. It's like the day goes by, like before I can even blink, the day is over. So it's nice though.
That's awesome. And then so you actually have your own, like as a contractor, you have your own LLC. So like they're paying, and I just find this discussion interesting because a lot of people are like, well, what should I do? And you're kind of doing something like that where like they're paying your business versus like contracting you. Like, how does that work? Can you tell us about that?
So when I first started this business, I don't remember. I think I started it for the private practice, which we can get into, but I started it as an LLC, and I worked at a clinic part-time after work. I did a job full-time during the day, and then I worked at a clinic in the afternoons, and the OT there was an SLP and an OT that like co-owned this company. And the OT was like, you need to just start your own business. Like, you would be so good at private practice. And I was like, how do I even do that? And she's like, just go online and like put in for an LLC. And I was like, it's that easy? And she's like, yeah, it's like $200. Like, you just pick a name and that's it. And I was like, okay. So I started it on my own. But then shortly after, I was like, I don't know what in the world I'm doing. So I don't remember how I found him, but I got an accountant, and he was like, actually, it makes more sense for you to be an S Corp. So I started as an LLC, and I think it's still an LLC in the name, but it's an S Corp for tax purposes, which I pay him to do those things for me because like I have no idea as far as accounting goes. Yeah, he does my payroll and my taxes, and he seems to know a lot more about it than I do.
Outsourcing. I have my own accountant. Like I know a good bit about taxes, but like I don't do it for a living. Totally worth it to pay someone. And whatever you pay your accountant is also tax deductible.
I know. And he's like, yeah, write this off. You can write that off. There's so many things. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many things. So he's helped me like save money in a way too. So I think it ends up paying for itself, the service that he does. So very thankful to have an accountant. That would be like one of my number one suggestions. If somebody wants to start out doing this, to get an accountant to help you.
Yes, you do not want to get in trouble with the IRS. Like 100. No. They can really mess up your life. Like they can literally like come and take you. Like it's just, you don't want to make that happen. So you were going to start out doing a private practice, which is actually really cool that a private practice you were working for encouraged you to go into private practice? That is
Yes.
really cool. And like, I have never heard of that. Like, so that's awesome. First of all.
Yeah. So I'll talk about that a little bit. So for 2 years, I didn't work as an independent contractor. I worked for a university down here that had preschool programs only for autistic students. So I was employed by the university, but the school was part of the county. And so I did that for 2 years. When I first moved to South Florida, that was my job for 2 years. And then working there, I gained this specialty passion, I guess you could call it, for AAC. When I was in grad school, I was literally petrified of AAC, like didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole, you know? Like it was like this thing that I was like, I don't understand. How do people do this? I will never, ever do that. Like, it was so scary. I don't know why. At this point in my life, I'm like, why did I think it was so scary? It's not. But I think that's what happens to some people in grad school. They feel that way. And then when I was a CF, my supervisor was very passionate about AAC, and I had some kids. It was just a gen ed, mainstream school, very small county that I worked in. So everybody was at that school, no matter, if they're gen ed student or they had accommodations or services on their IEP, they all went to that school. So I had some students on my caseload who used AAC, and she always like brought in all of these companies to show us the devices, and we had like full day trainings for AAC. And I was at that point becoming like a little bit more comfortable with it, just because I was like, I had to. But it wasn't until I moved to South Florida and got this job at this preschool where I had tons of kids who used AAC, mostly low tech, but I tried to get the school on board with using more high tech, because that's, to me, more functional and robust for those kids. And then when I went to work at this private practice, I became this like, I helped my supervisor, the owner, get devices for the kids at her clinic too, because she had no idea like even how to do that. And when I would come in, she would get to leave. So I don't know, we would just form this like really good relationship with each other. And I guess then maybe that's why she was so forward in saying that she thought I would be good at private practice, just maybe because like we worked together so well and everything like that. But it was a good experience. So yeah, that's kind of the AAC thing is why I wanted to start my own private practice, is because I saw there was such a need, especially in this area, for specifically like home parent AAC therapy. Like everyone was like, can you help me? And I was like, sure.
Say yes.
Yeah. I got to know a couple of the people who are like the device reps for the area that I live in, specifically one for Saltillo. We became really good friends, and she would say like, oh, I have this therapist. If you need, like when somebody would ask for if they knew of any therapists that specialize in AAC, like she would recommend me. So I got some referrals from her, and somebody who I worked with at the preschool. She worked for a different company, but she would come to the preschool for parent trainings. She also would give them my name too. So that's kind of how I got that private practice started.
That is so, like, I'm so glad you had a good experience with that. And whoever that person is, like, kudos to them. Like, you can tell, like, this idea of like encouraging other therapists to pursue their passion. Like, I just love that. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just having a feels moment, but okay. So you originally started even the LLC/S Corp that you originally started that for a private practice. But
yes,
it eventually evolved into MLB Speech, which is like your apparel and TPT boom cards thing. So how did that work? Like, did you just like try private practice and you were like, JK, or like tell me what happened there?
Honestly, to this day, I feel kind of like sad about it, because AAC is so special to me. And I feel like there are so many kids out there who need help, and parents out there who need the help. And I started doing it, and I loved the therapy so much, but I knew in my heart that the therapy that I wanted to do was, right there with the parent. I wanted it to be more of like a coaching model where the parent would watch me use the device with their child in the home, using the routines that were already existing. It turned into this like, okay, you're the therapist coming into my home. I didn't have an office or anything. I just did like home sessions. And it became I felt like it was this thing of like, okay, you're coming in, so I'm going to go do my thing. Like you do your therapy. And when you're done, let me know. And I'm like a type 9 anagram. So I just didn't want to like be like, no, this is not how it's going to work. Like you need to, I had such a hard time mentally, emotionally with that situation. So I was starting to dread going to their houses because I knew it, as much as I loved helping their child, like it wasn't going the way I expected. And in my head, when I started this private practice thing, I was like, okay, it's going to be this and it's going to be amazing. And they're going to make so much progress and the parents are going to be so happy. But I was going in, I was working with their child. They would eventually either just like say hi to me and leave, or they'd be kind of there, but busy. And like, I completely understand they had so much going on. I only had a couple clients at that point, and like, they still wanted me to come back and everything, but I was like, oh, this is not what I pictured. And then it was March 2020 when this was all happening. So I was building the practice. I had worked, I think, Monday through Friday and Saturdays at this clinic. And eventually I cut down so that I could start getting my own private clients. So I started working part-time at the clinic, having my own clients part-time, working like a ton, like too much at that point. So I told the owner of the clinic, I was like, I'm so sorry. I don't want to do this to you, but I have to go. And that was also in March of 2020 before everything shut down. Like, it was kind of like a weird situation. Like, I had no idea all of the things from COVID were going to happen, but I had already told her I was quitting. And then I was like, oh my God, what did I just do? Like, am I going to have a job because of this anymore? Did I just lose all of my income?
Yeah. So wait, did you quit for the private practice, or did you just like decrease your hours?
I had decreased my hours before, but then I ended up quitting because it was getting in the way of me building my private practice. Gotcha. So I was getting more inquiries and I just couldn't handle all of that work anymore. Like, it was just too much.
Okay.
And I was
so
like, okay, I have to pick one.
Okay. So you were going to go like into your private practice.
Yeah. And then I think like a week after I told her I put my 2 weeks in, her clinic closed. And I felt like saying to her, like, do you need help? But at the same time, I was like, I put my 2 weeks in. Like, I told her I didn't want to work there anymore because it was too much. Like, I can't go back and change my mind. And I said that for, a good reason in my head. So I was like, no, like, my husband's like, we'll figure it out. Like, you'll be fine. We'll figure this out. And then my private practice clients were not interested in doing therapy anymore because they had too much going on. Like, I think one of the clients I was seeing had like 9 children. Can you imagine like trying to balance teletherapy with the therapist with having 8 other kids? I can't even. So I was like, of course, like, we will pick up sometime. And we haven't, unfortunately. And then the other client that I had, she had just had a baby in the NICU for like a month right before COVID happened too. So I was like, okay, I feel like this is like meant to be, that it's no longer a thing. Mm-hmm. And then that's also when I started making resources, and it kind of just like replaced that private practice thing. So it was hard though. It was really hard to like accept that it wasn't for me. So
yeah, that's so interesting. Like, what was going through your head? Because like at that time, like, you had decided to go for it. Like,
I know
you had quit that private practice. You had decided to go for it. And then COVID, right?
Yeah.
We had so much control over that.
Oh my gosh. It was so scary. It really was scary, a scary time, especially like financially. Like, you don't know like what's going to happen with anything. And then because I was a contract SLP, I was like, are they even allowed to like have teletherapy and like pay us still? I had no idea.
Like your private, like for your private clients, you mean?
No, for like my full-time job. Like that, I didn't know if there was still going to be funding available, and like, I don't know. It was just a crazy time.
Okay, wait. Okay, Danny Slow. So you were at that school job, and then you were working extra hours at the private practice. Yes. And then you were, okay. Yeah, girl, you were working a lot. Oh my God.
Yeah, I used to go from my school, and I would either go see a client, and then I'd go see another client because I saw both on the same day. And then I would go home I would get home, and these clients were all over the place. They weren't right by my house. They were like an hour away. So, and like with traffic, I mean, you can imagine like Miami traffic too. Like it was a lot. mentally to handle.
Yeah.
And then the other days I would go to the clinic and I would work like 3 to 7 or 4 to 7. So I wouldn't get home till 7:30. And she had me working, I agreed to work on Saturdays too. So I had like no life work-wise.
Wow.
So yeah.
So COVID really just like stopped like all of your plans. Like COVID like really stopped you in your tracks. Like not just what you already had going on, like you had your full-time school job, but also like what you were planning for your future with your private practice. So during that time though, you started making resources. How did that go? Like, I'm sure your brain was just like complete mush at the time, with all of that going on. Like, how did you start with making the resources? And then what did you like, tell us about sort of like your mental process at that point, and then how it became like an actual business and another stream of income for you?
Yeah. So when school shut down for like, I don't remember exactly how long, I guess a week or two, there was like no school when they were transitioning to teletherapy. And at the time I had a caseload of K to 8, but they were all, in the county that I work in, they have these special programs just for autistic students. So that was my caseload. I only saw those students. And it was a K to 8. So it was one school, but there was like 2 separate buildings. So I saw K to 4 in one building and then 5 to 8 in the other building, I think it was. And I was trying to wrap my head around teletherapy because I had heard of teletherapy, but I had obviously, I mean, some grad schools let you practice with it, but I had never ever done it my whole life. And I was like, how is this going to work? Like, I see the research says that it works. And I was like, this isn't going to work for me.
How do I do this? What?
Yeah. So when school was closed, they were doing some PD. They were offering PD with different, companies having these conferences like teletherapy boot camp. And I was like, okay, let me register for that.
I did teletherapy boot camp. I was there, girl. I got you.
Yeah. And I just heard boom cards and I was like, what are boom cards? Like, I had never heard of that in my life. I think I Googled like the website and I was like, I don't know, but everybody says this is the thing that we should be using. So then I started looking for some materials for my kids because I didn't have any digital, I don't know, I just had paper resources at the time. And I wasn't really finding anything like for my caseload. So I was like, okay, well, if I can't find it, like I'll just make something. And then I was like, well, how do I make it? So I think I watched YouTube videos and they had some video tutorials on their website for how to make them. So I just started making them to go with the goals that my students were working on. And then at one point I was like, well, I guess you could sell them on the website. This is like back then. I was like, oh, they're 300 points. I had no idea what that even meant either. Apparently it's $3.
It's $3. It is. Yeah. I still don't know. I was like, is this Weight Watchers? What's with the points? Okay. That is
to this day, I'm like, why don't they just do $1? $3? It would make so much more sense. They would make more money, honestly, if it said $3.
Yeah. Maybe it's like credit card points. Like maybe they're tapping into like
points.
Yeah.
You buy the points in bulk and then you spend them on whatever you want. I don't know if that's a way for them to end up making more money, is because you just buy the points like at once and then you just use them whenever you feel like, and then you'll just buy more when they run out. I don't know.
I think you're right. Actually, that's smart. That I need to get the boom card CEO on the show. Clearly.
So yeah, I started making them and I was like, oh, I feel like maybe if I couldn't find these, then maybe somebody else could use them too. That was my thought at the time. I was like, oh, I'll just, I don't know how much to charge for them, but I guess I'll just charge like $3. That sounded good. There was like no rhyme or reason as to why. I was just like, that sounds good. That seems to be the norm. Yeah. That's fine.
No like detailed pricing strategy, like whatever.
Yeah, no. I was like, oh, we're just going to wing it here. So, and mind you, I had never had this like entrepreneurial, like I'm going to sell stuff. Like if you told me that in grad school or undergrad, like you're going to end up like selling things as an SLP, I would have been like, yeah, right. Like, no way. I was never that person, like I've always been very creative. In high school, I took like a photography and like, it was like a design class. Like I learned how to screen print. I learned how to develop film. Loved that. I was on the yearbook, loved art class, painting, drawing. Like I wasn't like an artist or anything like that, but my mom has known how to sew her whole life. So I've been around that as well. which is probably what led to this situation with the shirts. But yeah, I never intended for it to be like this replacement of my private practice income. But I put them up for sale in the Boom store, and it was a time where everybody needed that. So it turned into this like I was tracking sales, and it was insane the amount of money that I was making. And also you can sell your Boom cards on Teachers Pay Teachers. So that was like, okay, once I get this going, eventually I'm going to sell them on Teachers Pay Teachers. But that whole thing was like a whole nother animal that I had no idea how to do. So I think I had like 40 resources available in my Boom store before I even put them on Teachers Pay Teachers. And I'm sure, like, you can imagine, if you make one, you put it on Teachers Pay Teachers, make another one, put it on. It's like much easier to do it that way. But to add 40 different things on there at once, I had my husband help me with it, because it took like a couple weeks actually to just get them on that website. It was a lot of work.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. So that's how the Boom card store and Teachers Pay Teachers store started.
Wow. So, and then how did you start doing, we're going to come back to the Boom card and TPT thing, because I'm all about an SLP side hustle. Like, I love an SLP side hustle. That makes me want to get up in the morning. Okay. Let's be honest. And TPT and Boom is a really, really hot topic right now for ways for SLPs to make additional income, again, with the skills that we already have. But how did you jump into apparel? Like, first of all, how did you get the idea? I know you're creative, but like, how did you get the idea to start selling apparel? What made you decide to make that jump with your business?
So it all started with this tie-dye trend. Like, I was obsessed with tie-dye, and I could tell it was coming back, like the styles, how they come back, trendy things. And I was like, I knew that there were like apparel SLP people out there, but there was no tie-dye for it. And I was like, what if I just make a sweatshirt? I had no idea how I was going to do it, but I was like, what if I just make a sweatshirt and I tie-dye it, and I could be like a tie-dye girl? So I think I started with a giveaway. I just made one, and it was specifically for AAC, because at the time I was like, into AAC. I still am very passionate about it, but like, it was like my Instagram was very AAC and Boom card focused. So I made it, and it had like a little bit of like kind of like a scope of practice type of thing, but specifically for AAC. And I tie-dyed it. Also didn't realize that there's different types of tie-dye. Like, if you have a sweatshirt that has polyester in it, you have to get synthetic dye, and you have to like boil the water. It's like, I learned a lot in the process.
I was like, oh, that's a thing. Oh gosh.
That's where we started. It was not like, looking back, I was like, oh my gosh, that sweatshirt was interesting. But I did the giveaway, and people were like, if I don't win, can I buy one? And I was like, I guess, sure, you could buy one. So I started it as an Etsy shop, and I had like in my head ideas for shirts. And I always felt like before I was really even on Instagram, I would buy a shirt here and there. Like, I wasn't like passionate about speech apparel like I am now. I was just like, oh, this is a cute shirt for speech therapists. But I never wanted to like go to the grocery store after wearing it, because I didn't like it. So in my head, as a consumer, I was like, I want to make the things that I want to also wear outside of work. Like, not just like, going out to dinner, like not that type of thing, but like feel comfortable and like proud to wear this shirt outside of work, and like wouldn't be like, oh my God, like who's going to see me in my t-shirt. They weren't like ugly by any means, but it just like wasn't my style, I guess. So I started the apparel with that idea in my head. Like, I want to make things that I am obsessed with. Is that weird? I don't know. So
no, because I'm obsessed with, okay, for you people who are not watching the video on audio, that's a Harry Potter themed CCC-SLP shirt, right?
This is actually, well, it's funny because this is actually like an AC/DC font.
Oh my gosh. I was in the Harry Potter trade.
But sometimes when I look at it, I'm like, I bet you half the people like it because they know it's like rock. I put it as like rock inspired because I didn't want to be like AC/DC, like that's like copyrighted and everything. But the font is not. So I put it as rock inspired, hoping that people would be like, oh, it's AC/DC, but it also definitely looks like it's from Harry Potter too. So it's like two markets.
Uh-huh. Oh, I love it. That was my first thing whenever we got onto Zoom. I was like, is that a Harry Potter SLP shirt? Was that real? Where it's like a boom, 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 boom. And like it's the person taking out their credit card or whatever. Like
yeah.
That's what I think when there's anything like SLP and Harry Potter themed. But anyways, I digress. So you're making the jump. That was Danny interrupting. Making the jump to your apparel. So you wanted stuff that you could wear that you didn't feel like weird going to, the grocery store.
Right? Like if somebody saw me outside of work, they would be like, oh my God, I love your shirt, instead of being like, oh, hey, Emily. So, but at the same time, up until this point, I had only made resources, like that was my thing. I was like making resources to sell. I was not an apparel person. And obviously I would not be here at all if it weren't for social media and Instagram, because that's how this started. But I was having these thoughts of like, I shouldn't be selling shirts. Like I don't belong in that space. And I talked to a couple of my friends and I was like, this is what I want to do. And I have all these ideas and like designs like already like made, but like, I don't know how it's going to go. And they were just like, just do it. Like, and I was like, okay. And my husband, same thing. Like I have all these like, I don't know, imposter syndrome thoughts in the beginning. Like, do I belong here? Do I fit in this? Like, can I do both? Is that okay to make resources and sell shirts? Like, I don't know. I never also did it to make money, which is weird. Like I just did it because I wanted to and I liked it. But it's also been very successful as far as business goes. So yeah. And now it takes up most of my time and energy outside of work, outside of my full-time job. So I'm trying to balance the resources and the apparel because they both take up a lot of time. But I would say most of my time is for the apparel these days, which is interesting too, because like I see a transition now. Everybody's going back to school and boom cards are not selling as well as they were. So I'm glad that I had this to help with that situation while I figure out what paper resources I need in my life to then make and also sell, all out of the need.
Yes, definitely. And I think that's a real testament to just like having multiple, like you have multiple streams of income that like I've talked about this on other podcasts before. You clearly have it. It's like, there's going to be seasons in life and in the world and whatever. And to be reliant on one single source of income. I think if COVID has taught us anything, it's taught us that. It's that, the more income streams you have, the more secure you really are. Whereas I think sometimes we get this false sense of security from like getting the salary paycheck, which is nothing wrong with the salary paycheck. But, they say most wealthy people, most millionaires have like 7 different income streams versus just like the one income stream from a one job. So I really love that. So let's go back to, because imposter syndrome is a big buzzword right now. Like, I think, is it the messy SLP who's like doing her doctoral thesis on it? Like, yes, this is a thing. Okay. Like this is a big thing. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Like about how I know clearly you had a good community around you of like your husband and your friends just being like, do the thing, like just do it. Like can you tell us about what your thoughts were during that process and how you were able to overcome those to just like do the dang thing?
I don't know. Like it's hard even still. I actually have a book and I was starting to do this series on my Instagram page. And sometimes I start doing things and then I just like go off on these like tangents of like other topics. And then I like completely forget about it. So I was actually interested in learning more about it because I felt like it was affecting me so much. And like, ever since grad school, like first semester, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I still feel like most of the time, not most of the time, some of the time, I don't know what I'm doing. And I guess apparently it's like 70% of people feel this way. My husband never feels this way. apparently, but everybody else I've met pretty much feels, especially SLPs. I feel like
yeah.
he has a hard time like coping with me sometimes when I'm like, I don't know, like, and he's always like, just do it. Like, it's what's going to happen. Like, don't worry about what's going to happen. Like, you can't just spend your whole life worrying, like, just do it and you'll figure it out. So that's pretty much been, thankfully for him, what's happened. Like, I worry all the time. Like when I even like posting on Instagram, like, should I post about this? Like, I can't talk about imposter syndrome on my Instagram because I have it. Like, you know, even such little things, I always think and like second guess myself, but it's always the times when I feel the most that way that surprised me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always like, oh, I don't know if I should post this, or I don't know if I should do this. All the time that I felt that way, it's always worked out like the best, if that makes sense.
Well, and I think it's honesty, because, you know, social media is, you know, you're supposed to present the best of yourself, the filtered version, the cleaned up version, you know, the highlight reel, you know, whatever. And, you know, even in social media, insofar as, you know, your social media for your business, you know, you still have this like image or whatever, your brand that you're supposed to portray. Like, you know, like they were like, Dandy, you need brand colors. And I was like, okay, I'll get some brand colors. But
I did that too. Yeah.
right. Which, I mean, like, all that stuff is cool. Like, I'm about that. But I think there's a lot to be said about when you do show up on social media, just very raw and very honest, because a lot of people feel that way. And I think especially within the personality, the type of personality that is attracted to the field of speech language pathology is very much susceptible to those types of things. We want to do things correctly. We want to help people. I said this before in a previous episode. I had a professor in undergrad. She was from Britain, and she aluminium. That's how we knew she was British. In South Louisiana, that's what qualifies you as British, aluminium. And she said, she was actually a linguist. She wasn't an SLP. She was a linguist. And she was real quirky and cool, but she said, all of you CSD majors think, you know, you'll go save the world in your cardigans and pearls. Like, that was how she viewed us. And it was funny at the time, but like, it's so true. And I think there's something to be said about showing up as just vulnerable and raw on social media. Cause like, a lot of times if you feel something, it's very, very likely that someone else has felt that way as well. And,
yeah.
You know, you can talk about imposter syndrome without being the expert on imposter syndrome or what the heck is that even? Like, it's just even more of just showing like we all experience this. And even some of like the very well-established SLPs that I've spoken to on this podcast have mentioned that like they've struggled with something similar, and I truly believe, like, even within myself, like, I truly believe it's a muscle. Like, it's not like, you know, you go from having toothpick arms to bowling balls in there overnight. Like, it's a constant, like, you have to constantly work that muscle. You have to constantly move it. You have to constantly continue to increase the weight that you're putting on it. You know, like when you're growing in your business, like the more followers you get, like that's more people that can support your business, but that's also more people that can leave troll comments. And
yeah.
That's what I've started to learn is like, it's working a muscle, it's building a muscle. In order to build that muscle, you have to continue to be willing to break yourself down a little bit, the same way that you do with like weightlifting. So girl, you post those posts.
I will say, I actually, my husband's sister, my sister-in-law, just visited a couple weeks ago, and I have this Instagram where I promote, but even just like, I never want to come across as like salesy. Like, I don't want people to be like, oh, like she's just talking about her shirts all the time. So I have a hard time with that as well. And she was here and I was like, yeah, you know, like my friends are so supportive. This community has shown me nothing but like support. And I'm always like blown away. They've created this like Emily B fan club, a few of my friends on Instagram. And I just cannot believe that like it's turned into this like community of people. I don't know. They just support me like over and over and over. They didn't just buy one shirt and like leave, you know, it's like a thing. I don't know. It's turned into this thing that I'm so thankful for. And so I have this Instagram shop you have to set up on Facebook where you can link your, if you have like a website. I don't think I can do it through Etsy, but because I have a website where I put most of my things, you can set it up on Instagram as a shop. So then even if you don't have 10,000 followers, you can tag products in your shop. So for the most part, if people would tag me in their story wearing my shirt, I would repost it. But I told my sister-in-law, like, I was like, oh, I don't really tag my own stuff because I don't want to be that person that's just like tagging, like shop my stuff. And she was like, girl, like, who cares? Like, just tag your, like, that's your shop. Tag your shirt. Like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? Like, somebody will find your shirt and buy it, and then, you know, if they don't care, they'll just keep on scrolling. And I was like, you know what? I feel like I won't tag every shirt, but maybe now I should tag some more.
Yes.
So other people help me more than myself with this, the feelings of I don't know, the imposter syndrome. I guess it is.
I think sometimes the people we love, and that's why they love us. So, like, you know, sometimes the people we love are like are better at seeing the good in ourselves than we are. And I see this a lot with it. I see this a lot with a lot of SLPs. Like I see, and like, I'm curious your thoughts, like on, you know, cause I made the comment earlier, like, I think this field, like this helping people profession, like attracts these personalities of like these like beautiful, amazing, like talented people. Like, you're like, oh, I just make sure. It's like, no, if I made a shirt, everyone would be like, what the heck is that? Like, it looks like my dog vomited on that. What is that? Like, I cannot like, that even something like cute and simple, like what you have on right now, which I'm going to call it a Harry Potter shirt because that's where my brain goes. So whatever. For all of you on audio, it's like a CCC and then like a lightning bolt instead of a hyphen SLP, but I'm going to call it Harry Potter font, but it's AC/DC font, but it's in my head, it's Harry Potter font. Like stuff like that. Like, I would never think of that. Like, ever. Like, I would literally, like, you'd be having Times New Roman up on that shirt. That's all. Or maybe some Comic Sans. Maybe you'd be getting that for me. So I think it's, you know, this field has such like talented people, like, and we all have our different talents. Like, I'm not artsy. I was literally just texting one of my good friends, like, hey, what the heck do I do with this office? Like, what do I put a circle rug? Do I put a rectangle rug? I don't know. I don't care. I just want to look good. Just literally, she told me what to buy and I just bought it all on Amazon. But, but I think it's, you know, I'm curious your thoughts on that as well, as like, why do so many of us sell ourselves short? Because we so do. So like, what do you think that comes from?
I don't know if it's just ingrained in the type of people that we are. I don't know. I feel like everybody that I've met is so relatable in a way, as far as like the community and the field of speech language pathologists. But yeah, I don't know, but I know it's very common. From what I've gathered.
Well, I'm so glad that you have people in your life that have pushed you to do this. Cause like, think, you know, the people that have gotten to enjoy your gift, like enjoy your gift of creativity, enjoy your gifts that you do your Boom and TPT store. Like, and that's something like I want to encourage everyone on is, first of all, having people in your life that are encouraging and supportive, because, you know, you tell me, Emily, like, how different do you think this, you know, cause you talked about how you battled these things and you still battle these things, even though you've got a very successful business. Do the dang thing. Love it. How do you think your outcome would have been different had you not had this like clearly super great like support system around you?
I don't think I would be very happy. I don't know. I feel like it's weird because I've been on this journey and it's nothing like what I thought. You know, like you go to grad school, you learn the things, you're like, I'm going to go be a speech therapist, but there's so much more to it than that. And like, you can do other things besides therapy. You know, like I am so passionate and have such a love for my students, but I also love being able to have this side business. And like, you can go do private practice, or you can go, you know, sell resources or shirts or whatever. You could have a podcast. But if it weren't for those people, I definitely wouldn't have been able to do those things. So I think it's very important to have that. And also like Instagram, like I have people in my DMs all the time, like messaging me, and I have like very, very close friends that most of which I've never actually met, but like they're my friends. And I don't know, like I would have never met them, but they also, you know, I message them and I'm like, what do you think of this? Or this is the shirt that's coming out in a couple weeks. And they're like, oh my God, I love it so much. Like, take my money again. And I'm like, no, I don't want your money. Like, I don't want you to buy any more stuff.
Take my money again.
And when they say that, I'm like, that's not what I meant. Like, just tell me, like, is this a good shirt? Like, please don't buy it. But like, do you like it? It's ridiculous. I mean, it's very like flattering, I will say it is. But it's more the friendship and the connection than anything that I'm thankful for. Yeah, so it's very special to me.
Yes, especially, I mean, and you're still like, your business is doing well, but like your business is still growing. Like you're still, because I mean, it's the apparel is only still like within its first year. I mean, imagine where you'll be in 3 years or something like that. Look, I'm stressing her out, y'all. Let me spill my roll.
Sometimes I sit and I'm like, you know, there's like, I think like 300 and some SLPs that work in the county I work in. And it's a very big county. It's not the biggest, but it's very big. And I think to myself, like, if somebody wears this shirt at like a PD or some sort of meeting with a bunch of other therapists, like, if none of those people are even on Instagram or anything, like they would have no idea that I really exist. I'm on the second page of Google now. Sometimes I look because I'm like, oh, I wonder where I'm at in the SEO part of things, which is a whole nother topic. But it just blows my mind that there's so many people to reach out there. Like, not everybody wants a speech shirt, obviously, but like I just sit sometimes and think of like all the people in a room who could someday know about my store. And that's crazy to think about. Like, even if just one person knew, and then they could tell a friend, and then, you know, it's like word of mouth, and like the sky's the limit, honestly. That's how I feel.
Yes. And I mean, I think more SLPs need to get in the online in the online space, because the opportunities are endless online. Like however you want to show up online. Again, your girl's not going to show up selling apparel. Don't worry. I'm not going to, or if I do want to sell something, I'm going to have Emily design it for me. And because you don't want me to design anything. But like, I think the online space, there's so much opportunity. And I think sometimes we get so focused on like therapy. And I mean, there's only so many kids you can see in a day. There's only so many therapy sessions you can do in a day. Second point, there's only so many good therapy sessions you can do in a day. I remember doing 13, 14 sessions a day. Those were not all good. That's part of why I went to private practice. I never do see that many kids in a day anymore, because I make my own schedule. But I think, you know, and that is one way for us to make money. But I think you're 100% right. Like, this world is so big. And even within the small, like this little niche this SLP niche, like there's thousands of us. And like, if sharing your point of view, sharing your story, like someone's going to connect with that. And like, that's what all this is about. Like, yes, you make shirts. They're super cute, but I'm sure like a part of what draws people to your store versus someone else's store or whatever, it's about that connecting. Cause that's all any of us ever want is. And that's part of why we went into speech pathology, is like, we understand like the importance of communication and connecting with each other. And I mean, that's what sells, is connection. And it's not about the shirt, but the shirt is just like, the shirt is a means of a way, you know, it's a means to a part of that connection. But it's just so fascinating, like the whole online space.
It's funny you say that, because when I started the shirt thing, the apparel line, I actually have a separate account that I started, and I was going to call this something else, because I was like, well, if it's just MLB Speech, won't it get confusing? And I don't want my name on a shirt. Like, it, to me, in my head, I was like, that seems weird. Like, somebody's going to have a shirt that's from MLB Speech. Like, I think of like, you know, American Eagle or like Urban Outfitters,
right?
Or
like
all of these companies.
Like a non-personal
Yes.
brand? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
And then everyone told me, no, they're not buying the shirt because they like the shirt. They're buying it because of you. And I was like, no, they're not. And today, even still, I'm like, no, they're not. But I'm really glad that I don't know if someday it will change. We'll see. Probably not at this point. We've gone so far already. I'm glad that I kept it all, even though my account can sometimes be all over the place. And maybe people who followed me in the beginning are like, what's going on? This is not what I signed up for in the beginning of your journey. But everybody's really like stuck around and supported it. And it's like this whole new thing. It's very fun and amazing. But yeah, it's still Emily B Speech. That's the website. The website was originally for private practice, and I had to ask my brother, who is like my back end website guy. He like set it all up. He's like, we need to move to Shopify. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Okay. Shopify sounds better than what we've got, I guess, if we're a shopping website now. So we've been trying to move over to Shopify for a while. I'm like just waiting on him. My husband's like, you should just do it yourself. And I'm like, well, he's the guy. He's like the website guy. I'm not really. I know how to use my website now, the back end, to like add things to and change. But if there's ever something that's missing, like I didn't have a search engine for a while, and I was like, Sean, can you put a search here so people can just type what they're looking for? And he was like,
do this.
he was like, done. I was like, I Googled it. I couldn't figure it out. So I'm thankful also for my brother, because he helped me get the whole website going. So I forget where I was going with that, but it's Emily B Speech. Yes, still Emily B Speech. That's the website. That's what it's going to stay at, I guess.
Yeah, love it. Well, they say personal brands are always like widely more successful or whatever. I don't know if you want Gary V. He's like got like 2 million followers on Instagram or something crazy. He's always talking about like self-development and business and stuff like that. And he's always talking about that, how like personal brands are the most popular, and how he thinks they will continue to be the most popular because, again, like it's about that connection. Like, you know, years and years ago, that idea of like American Eagle, Aeropostale, those sort of like faceless brands, those are not as popular. Like they're still popular, but this, especially if you yourself are trying to build something, that a personal brand is the way to go. So I love that you kept it Emily B Speech.
Yeah.
So Emily, have you like invested in yourself in any ways, like throughout this journey? Like what have you kind of done to like, have you invested in like programs or anything like that to kind of help with your knowledge with this type of stuff? Because I mean, you're clearly, you know, you're making money in this business. It's doing well. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So when I started making boom cards, I tried to get as much information as I could from the internet to learn how to make them. But as far as like, you know, what to do after that to build that side of business was kind of, I was pretty clueless when I came to that. So thankfully for Instagram, I took a course, I think it was in September of 2020. So I had my store since March, April-ish. I think I posted my first resource in April. And in September, I was at the point where I was like, okay, it's going well, but you know, I want to take it to the next level. So ironically enough, this level up course I took with the type B SLP, Abby, and speech T, Aaron, they have a coaching course. They have an account on Instagram. I think it's A and B coaching. And then they have courses every couple of months for people who are just starting out. Maybe they've never made a resource, but they have ideas in their head of things that, you know, are missing or that they want to create. Or maybe somebody has had a store for a while on Teachers Pay Teachers, and they have a lot of products in their store, but it's not, they want to, you know, take it to the next level. So that's the course that I took, and it helped me a lot. Like they taught us so many things in that course about like, you know, covers using PowerPoint and fonts and, you know, branding. And it was like so much helpful information that would have taken me so much time to gain that knowledge myself. Like I felt like I didn't even think about it twice about paying for that course, because I was like, these two women have had years of knowledge that I maybe never would have acquired myself. So I, without a doubt, didn't hesitate to enroll in that course, and it helped me a lot. So I'm hoping that they said that they're having more additional opportunities in the future for people who've already taken the course. So I'm waiting for something else from them to come. But yeah, I think that's the only thing I've done so far for resources. And for apparel, is just a lot of Googling how to make sure.
Is there a course? Like I was gonna say, I did know about the A&B coaching course, which is really cool. But I was like, sounds like that's the course you need to make, Emily, is the SLP apparel course.
Well, people do send me messages I shouldn't say all the time, but I get messages from people who ask me like, who do you use to print your shirts? And like, how do you make stickers? And I love helping. I'm like, there's absolutely room for everybody in the space. So anytime anybody messages me, I'm like, this is what I do. This is how I do it. Ask me all the questions, because I wish that there was somebody to help me. And who knows, maybe there was, but in the SLP world, there wasn't. And I don't know, I never really looked into it. Nowadays, I'm into like, somehow I got stuck on the For You page of reels, just about reels. So I'm like, okay, I need to do more reels to get more eyes on my account. So now I'm like, every reel I watch is about what to make reels about. So, you know how the analytics, it like gets like, once you watch it once, it's like shows you more things that are like that. And now I'm just stuck on that. And I'm like, okay, well, someday I will get more inspiration for reels. It's hard though. The reels are hard, I will say.
Oh yeah. And they were like, there was this big thing, Instagram's only going to be a video platform, blah, blah, blah. I was freaking out. I was like, oh man. But it's true, video, which I think even from an SLP perspective, it makes sense that people like video because it's more interactive, it's more personal, but it is harder to like edit and stuff. It totally is.
Yeah. I had one that I did, and some of them take like 2 seconds to make and some of them take like forever, and you never know how it's going to go. And I'm always like, oh man, I don't know about this reel. And I had one, it just keeps getting like more and more views, and I'm like, people like, oh my God. So I don't know why they take off, and it's just like the most random ones do. So I need for that to happen with a shirt reel instead of just a random reel, because I make some random stuff in some shirts.
Oh, you should do the one. What's the one where it's like they'll back up and then they'll pop the shirt and then and then they're in a different shirt. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, there are so many for sure. There's one that my friend Roxy, the SLP, sent me, where they take the shirts and they throw them on the ground, and then the person ends up over here, and then it's like they throw it this way. And I was like, that's a lot of editing. I don't know how to do that one.
You got this. But for reals though, I think, and this is okay, I'm telling this to you so that everybody listening can hear how my brain works. I think that is a great little online course business idea for you. But I'm just saying of this, it sounds like there's a need in the market for people to teach SLPs how to create apparel.
I mean,
I'm just throwing it out there. I'm manifesting it for you. I'm just throwing that out there. But that's how great
I don't even know like what I'm doing. How do I tell you what to do? But I guess I do at this point. I don't know. I screen print some. I use direct to garment printing for some, which is nice because I just have the design. And then there's a company, like professional, like $60,000 printer. I don't even know how much the printer costs that they use. And then they send them to my customers. So it's like kind of passive income as well, just like TPT is, which is nice. But I like having some things, like a hand in some things, like physically making them, because it's fun for me. But yeah, there's so many things that you can do to make shirts. It's crazy.
You just said lots of things. Like I have no idea what you're talking about. So but that goes to show, and I want everyone out there to hear this. Like you really don't underestimate the knowledge that you have. Like she was just talking about, I've heard of screen printing. Don't ask. I don't know how to do it. Like, I don't know about any of that. Or like something, I have absolutely no idea. I've heard of Shopify. But I really have absolutely no idea. Don't underestimate the knowledge that you have. Like you have to, because and they say like, in order to teach someone something else, like you only need to have to be like 10%, like 10% more or something like that, which, way more than that. But don't underestimate the knowledge that you have and own it, because like Emily, you're so awesome. Like just
thanks.
just own it. Like I love it. I absolutely love it. Okay. All right. So I want to be respectful of your time, Emily. This was so much fun. Thank you so much for coming on and just sharing your story, because I think you're a great reason. You're a good example of the reason why I started this podcast, just to showcase like normal SLPs, but like you're doing super, super awesome things and you're growing and you have like super amazing things ahead of you with your great support system in tow. But before I finally release you, is there one piece of advice for somebody out there who's interested? Because I get a lot of questions about this. Someone who's out there who's interested in like an SLP side hustle or creating resources or creating shirts or whatever it is. What would be like kind of one piece of advice that you would want to give them?
I would say the thing that I keep coming back to is filling a need. Like I make resources and started making resources because I either didn't want to pay for them or they didn't exist. So I try to make things that I can't find, you know what I mean? So if there's something that you are interested in making or doing on the side, try to focus on making something out of a need that you can fill. And like, that's, Instagram, social media too, like posting about things that you have the knowledge about that you can teach others with. I think that that's so valuable and will take you really far by making things that there's a need for. Because if there's always going to be a need, then to me, that's like a really great way to start a side business for sure.
Yes, I'm like raising my hands up in the air. Like, I just don't care. Cause I totally agree with that. Yes. Like you have to find a need in the market. If there's, you're looking at like your not competition, like I need to beat you, but you know what I mean? Like if you want to make this resource, I don't know, about adverbs, and there's 50,000 other resources just like the one you want to make, versus if you want to make this resource about adjectives, let's stick with grammar. If you want to make this resource about adjectives and there's nothing out there like it, well, now when someone searches for that, you're going to be the only one that pops up. And that's like, that's all that works.
Yeah. Speaking of which, there's, I don't have any in here, I don't think, but there's a specific type of shirt called a corded crew. When I was in college, it was not a thing. Somebody asked me when I first started selling shirts, I sometimes put up polls or question boxes, like, what do you want to see in my shop? And they're like, corded crews. I'm like, what is a corded crew? And now I have some and I'm like, oh my God, corded crews. Like everybody needs one. I wish I had it so I could show you, but it's like a sweatshirt. It's not corduroy. It's a cotton material, but it's also not ribbed on the inside. It's only on the outside. And it's just like the comfiest, softest, like lived in. It's like the best. And apparently it's like a college, like, I don't know if it started as a sorority thing.
Probably.
College girls were asking. And I was like, I need to figure out. So it took me months just to find where in the world I get corded crews. So I ordered some wholesale. They were kind of like a rougher material. And I tried to screen print. It was like a disaster. And I was like, I can't do this. Like that was my only really like big fail as far as apparel was going. And then I found a company, they offered to screen print them for me. And I was like, well, I know how to screen print, but like not on this, but they're very soft compared to the other ones I had found. So now I can screen print those specific ones. And that's like what's coming out. I have the shipment was supposed to be delivered last week and they said their warehouse is delayed, but this is like very, like nobody really has this corded crew thing and they're really nice. And the designs that I made are like some of my favorites. So that is like, there's a need for corded crews with speech things on them. And it's like my next exciting thing. I released one last spring. Sorry, there's a dog here. And it was like a tie-dye one, of course, had to do the tie-dye, but it was like almost summertime when I came out with it. And that was like, maybe 6 months ago, a long time ago, as far as the business goes as well. So it's been a while since I've had corded crews. I only had the one, and I'm about to have new ones for fall. And I'm like, I can't wait.
Yes. Oh, I'm gonna go look up what a corded crew is, because I love big comfy sweatshirts. That's my favorite thing.
It's exactly that.
Yes.
Big comfy sweatshirt.
And also another great testament of just another great example of you listen to your audience. Because that's another great thing is like, once you've built an audience, like if you're trying, if you build an audience, you can ask them what they want. Because like, it sounds like you had never heard about corded crews. I still don't know what that is. Like, I'm gonna
where do I get this corded crew? I have no idea.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm thinking of the book Corduroy with the bear. That's with the, you know what I'm talking about with the corduroy book?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. I was like, I'm not that old. But yeah, that's just like another great example. And just like with anything, like especially if you want to do business, private practice, TPT, apparel, like you just have to take things as it comes. And you had a great example of you ordered some and they didn't work out. And instead of, sitting in the corner and sucking your thumb about it, you were like, okay, let me go find something else. Let me go figure this out, especially because you realized it was something that people wanted. So great testament to just resiliency. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Emily, for coming on. It has been an absolute pleasure. I know all of you that are listening are like, where can I go buy this girl's stuff? Right. So all of her information is going to be in the show notes. You can go check out her Instagram. You can go check out her store for all the cool things. The corded crews might actually be out by the time this airs, because it'll be like 4 weeks. This will probably come out in like a month. So you think the corded crew? Okay.
They'll hopefully be like restocking at this point.
Okay, good. So go check it out.
Fingers crossed.
Yes, I don't even know what they look like, but I really want to buy one.
I'll send you a picture. on Instagram.
Send me one. All right. Well, thank you so much, Emily, for coming on and sharing all of your knowledge. And I hope you have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. I loved it.
Yes. First podcast down. Woo woo.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you want to hear more no fluff, getting the dang thing done stuff from myself and other real life SLPs, be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or pledge a small amount on patreon.com/speechgoods. If you found this content valuable, please share it with others so we can get this message out there. And if you haven't already, join us on Instagram. Handle is @speechgoods. See you there.